Ferrari struggled to properly manage its two cars during the intense qualifying session in Baku, Azerbaijan. In modern Formula One, it is absolutely essential to be able to extract the maximum performance from the tires, especially under the current technical regulations that place strict limits on tire usage and degradation. Instead, the usual recurring weaknesses of the SF-25 emerged, causing serious setbacks for the Scuderia. Lewis Hamilton was eliminated prematurely in Q2, while Charles Leclerc crashed into the barriers in Q3, ending his qualifying session in disappointment. Today demanded a clear and well-planned comeback, with the goal of fully exploiting the specific characteristics of the SF-25 on the long, fast straights and tight corners of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix circuit, a track known for punishing even the slightest mistake. So let's take a detailed look at how events unfolded for the Maranello team's drivers in Baku. All the usual pre-race technical checks had already been completed before the cars headed out on track. This included a comprehensive inspection of the power unit, the transmission system, the braking system, and the hybrid energy deployment system, all of which are crucial for maintaining consistent lap times and maximizing performance over a race distance. The two track engineers, Brian Bozzi, Ferrari's race engineer for Charles Leclerc, and Riccardo Adami, assigned to Lewis Hamilton, provided the final instructions and strategic advice for the start. Their goal was to ensure that both drivers could get the maximum benefit from the opening lap, which is often decisive on a circuit like Baku, where the combination of long straights and tight corners can make or break a race weekend. Everything was meticulously prepared, leaving only the green light for the formation lap and the official start of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for the cars to hit the track and begin their installation laps. The starting grid was now set and finalized, while the technical stations relayed last-minute and decisive instructions to both drivers, confirming the planned strategies for the opening laps. The start promised to be particularly thrilling, especially when considering the cars in the top positions, which included the fastest qualifiers and several championship contenders. In this context, one of the most closely watched aspects was Ferrari's choice of tires for the start of the race. Tire selection often offers a strong indication of the team's intended strategy and overall tactical approach, and in this case it was clear that the Scuderia had planned two very different approaches for its two drivers. Charles Leclerc started on medium tires, which are generally quicker in the early laps but require careful management over longer stints, while Lewis Hamilton opted for hard tires, aiming to extend his first stint as long as possible and take advantage of tire durability on the long Baku straights. These two distinct approaches reflected the team's attempt to maximize their chances in a race where strategic diversity could be key. Once the lights went out and the action began, both Ferrari cars got off the line relatively well. Lewis Hamilton, in particular, showed an impressive launch. Despite being on a tire compound with inherently lower grip than the mediums, he managed to gain 2 positions at the start, a performance enhanced further by the early incident involving Lando Norris, who shortly after ran into trouble and later crashed into the barriers. The race was immediately interrupted with a red flag, causing a pause in the action that reshuffled the strategic possibilities for the entire field. This red flag situation handed Lando Norris, driving for McLaren, a significant opportunity to reduce the championship gap, as it allowed him to regroup and potentially make strategic gains. Meanwhile, both SF-25 cars continued to struggle to maintain their tires within the optimal operating window, a recurring and frustrating problem for Ferrari this season. The repair and reinstatement of the protective barriers and trackside elements required some additional time, during which neither Charles Leclerc nor Lewis Hamilton was able to make a pit stop that could have provided a strategic advantage, leaving the team with limited options for executing an ideal race plan. At the restart, Charles Leclerc made a decisive and clean move on Lando Norris at turn 1, taking 8th position with a well-executed maneuver. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton attempted to put pressure on the racing bulls of Isaac Hadjar, and although his pace appeared stronger at certain points, he was unable to complete an overtaking move due to the fact that Isaac Hadjar could fully exploit the DRS from the car ahead. By lap 9, Lewis Hamilton successfully executed the decisive pass, gaining another position and improving his race standing. For Charles Leclerc, the focus shifted to containing Lando Norris behind him, who made several attempts to apply pressure with overtaking maneuvers that were consistently defended. Staying closely attached to the slipstream of George Russell was crucial for Charles in order to defend against the British driver and maintain competitive top speed along the long straights of the Baku circuit. Observing the two Ferrari cars, a slight understeer became apparent on Lewis Hamilton's SF-25, a condition that caused some difficulties when exiting corners and slightly delayed acceleration. Interestingly, this condition did not seem to manifest on Charles Leclerc's SF-25 at this stage, allowing him to maintain better rotational stability. By lap 13, the management phase of the race became essential, with both drivers needing to balance tire life and hybrid energy usage. Lewis Hamilton's driving style during this period was precise, employing lift and coast techniques over approximately 150 meters of straight to optimize the operating temperatures of the SF-25's tires and maintain peak performance without overheating. Team radio communications revealed that the main technical difficulty was caused by brake overheating, a common challenge on the high-speed sections of the Azerbaijan circuit. Lando Norris quickly realized that he could not pass Charles Leclerc and adjusted his pace accordingly, while Leclerc remained behind Yuki Tsunoda, attempting to close in but lacking the top speed necessary to mount a successful attack. For this reason, Charles requested a modification in race dynamics to avoid losing time, though a pit stop to attempt an undercut was impractical, as it would have placed him back into heavy traffic and potentially wasted the strategic advantage. 3 laps later, Ferrari's pit wall decided that Charles Leclerc, driving car number 16, should come in for medium tires, rejoining the race in 11th position behind Matteo Antonelli's Mercedes. Charles initially avoided pushing immediately to preserve the life of his new tires, while Lewis Hamilton continued to chase Lando Norris but was unable to match his pace. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc closed in on Liam Lawson, tempting to capitalize on opportunities but continuing to struggle with top speed limitations. The Monegasque driver finally entered the DRS zone on Lawson's car, but the potential advantage never materialized. Despite staying very close to the car ahead, he could not find the space or opportunity to complete an overtaking maneuver. Brian Bozzi carefully managed the SF-25's performance, but nothing seemed to change. Even when in the slipstream of Lawson's Red Bull, the gain for Charles with DRS was minimal. The driver expressed his frustration over the radio, but his engineer encouraged him to continue pushing and trying to extract every possible advantage from the car. Multiple factors prevented a successful pass. The Racing Bulls was extremely fast, and at critical corners such as turns 2 and 16, the Ferrari struggled to maximize traction and acceleration. Additionally, and importantly, the hybrid energy deployment system on the SF-25 slightly reduced power along 3/4 of the main straight, further complicating Charles Leclerc's race plan. Even the use of the K1 overboost system was restricted, creating an unusual and atypical scenario compared to the team's usual race conditions. On lap 38, Lewis Hamilton came in for his pit stop, switching to medium tires and rejoining the track behind Charles Leclerc in 9th position. Lando Norris's pit stop was slower than expected due to indecision over the front right tire, which placed him behind Leclerc temporarily. Yuki Tsunoda also completed his stop and immediately rejoined in a battle with Liam Lawson, quickly overtaking him. Charles Leclerc attempted to take advantage of the situation, but continued to suffer from the same top speed limitations on the straights that had hampered him earlier in the race. Lando Norris remained closely behind, which actually favored Lewis Hamilton, allowing him to gain ground on the pair in front. On lap 42, Lando Norris successfully passed Charles Leclerc, as the Ferrari appeared to be struggling with power unit management, limiting maximum boost and acceleration on the straights. Consequently, the team issued a strategic order allowing Lewis Hamilton to overtake his teammate, immediately gaining a more competitive rhythm and exploiting the tow effect from the cars ahead. Lewis Hamilton attempted to capitalize on the train of cars ahead, consisting of Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda, and Lando Norris, but despite his proximity, he was unable to close the gap further in the final laps. Ferrari's overall performance during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix was insufficient to make a real impact. The cars lacked the necessary pace to challenge the frontrunners and had to settle for low points-paying positions. It was another weekend where potential was left unfulfilled, despite team principal Vasseur emphasizing the importance of concentration and avoiding mistakes.